Welcome to the 2024 Baseballtown Charities Phillies Winter Tour, presented by Leibensberger Funeral Homes.
Since its inception in 2002, Baseballtown at Charities has been investing in the future of baseball, raising several $1 million to build facilities and fund programs in and around Reading. It started with the construction of Gordon Hudak Stadium at Lowers Park, a baseball palace for inner-city boys and girls of the Baseballtown Junior RBI League. It continued with the renovation of Reading's historic Bear Park, and then expanded beyond the city limits to build the Savage 61 Dream Field, a ballpark specially designed for those with physical and cognitive challenges. In addition to financially supporting the leagues that utilize these facilities, Baseballtown at Charities recently started the Rip It for Life program, which provides free lessons, batting cage time, and invaluable guidance about life to players who lack the financial ability to pursue playing at a higher level. We invite you to celebrate our national pastime while preserving its future by supporting Baseballtown at Charities. Please visit baseballtown.org to donate today.
Welcome back to the 2024 Baseballtown Charities Phillies Winter Tour. I'm your host, our Phillies broadcaster, Jake Starr, and tonight I'm very excited to be joined by 2022 and 23 our Phillies pitcher, bullpen arm, Andrew Baker. Andrew, appreciate you hopping on with us today. How's everything going?
Oh well, man, we're getting fired up right now to get going, and just down here training high performance camp. So far it's been great.
So kind of just talk a little bit about the past year and into the off season. You spent all of 2023 in Reading. Then you had an opportunity in the postseason to pitch in the Arizona Fall League. Once all that kind of finished up in, say mid-November, and then you got towards, December, Christmas time, when you took a chance to sit down, reflect back on your 23 year as a whole, what were some of your biggest takeaways?
Well, obviously not to put a lot of stock in stuff. I mean that, obviously last year was not ideal for me. I mean, as far as numbers go and everything like that, but you learn to not put too much stock into things you think are so bad. And then you learn also too to keep an even kill and not be too high when it's going well. So I think just as a whole, last year, just in Reading was a year of learning how to deal with adversity. And I think that taught me a lot going into the off season, especially in Arizona, about, not really worrying about it beforehand, what happened the day before, and just going out there and having fun. And I think Arizona was big for me as far as finding a routine that I liked, going about my business the right way every day, and then at the end of the day, just having fun on the mound. I think that's why I was able to turn it around in Arizona and do well, was because I just started going day in and day out doing the right thing, and also too trusting what I knew worked. And I think overall that's going to carry into this year, wherever I am, and just gonna have fun as much as I can and enjoy it. So.
And you talk about how much you learned when you were in Arizona and maybe some routine things that you did differently. Anything specifically, whether on the mental or physical side that you just did differently when you got to the Fall League, maybe compared to how you approached it during the 23 regular season?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it just came down to, I started just doing a lot of little things during the day that usually I wouldn't do. And I mean, I got as down to the T as far as like cleaning my glove every day. That was part of my routine. But I think that's why I've found something that works for me so well, is because I just started doing the things that made me comfortable. And, not saying I didn't do that during the season last year, but I think I just really found my niche and my, what works for me day in and day out. So I think that was half of it. And then the other half was really just mentally. I mean, man, I just wanted to go have fun. I quit worrying about, just all the stuff that I couldn't control. I quit worrying about mechanics and everything. I just went out there and was athletic and just, let my stuff work. And I think that's a big battle for pitchers, especially nowadays, is just trusting your stuff and not really, worrying about things that, you can't control. So I just learned how to do that, man. And I think that helped me out a lot out there, as a big part of why, my performance was really good out there. So.
Awesome. And you hit on it a little bit in your last couple of answers. I just want to kind of circle back to it again real quick, is that somebody like yourself who possesses a lot of really great physical tools, fastball in the upper 90s, can touch 100 at times, a really good swing and miss off speed pitch, when it's working really well, For you to have, all those physical tools, but you kind of talk a lot about that mental side of the game. Do you kind of feel like that big next step in your development is really just continuing to hone in on that mental side of the game, and then all the physical stuff that we talked about will kind of come along with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you can only be so talented before you have to learn how to mentally be a competitor and mentally know that you're going to have to flush things and you're going to have to, take the bad with the good. There's going to be plenty of good moments, but there's also going to be times when you get kicked in the teeth, and it's how you get up and you say, I'm not going to let that bother me tomorrow, because tomorrow is always a new day. So I think, that's the biggest battle with me. And that's the biggest thing that I had to figure out, was the fact that no matter if it's good or bad, you don't have to change what works and what is your home ground. So I think that was the big battle with me. And once I figured that out, man, it really just started to just be smooth and comfortable and allowed me to just go out there and have fun.
And now you start to look ahead to the 2024 season. Down in Clearwater now, doing some kind of workouts before camp officially breaks open. But what's the next month and a half going to look like for you between camp, then spring training games? What are you kind of looking most forward to, and what are you trying to get out of the next month and a half before you break camp?
Yeah, well, no, the first thing is, I mean, the one thing I'm really looking forward to going into the 24 season is just picking up where I left off in Arizona, as far as, the routine and all that, and what I spoke about earlier, the mental side of it. So just using those things that I found that work for me is going to be exciting. And obviously it's fun to get back into games, man, and compete against other guys. I mean, obviously there's great players you play against, and you look forward to facing guys like that. And obviously, the opportunity to go and back up big league games, um, and just show them that I deserve a shot. And I think just with everything that I've picked up on in the last year or so, and how good I feel mentally right now, I'm really excited to get going in 24. It's gonna be fun.
And now we kind of backtrack a little bit back to 2022. You had an opportunity to come up to Reading late in the season, made a handful of appearances, finished the year strong, and you're going on a season plus in Baseballtown. Off the field, what's that experience been like? Whether it's been the fans or just the town and the community, what's the time in Reading been like so far?
Well, no, obviously I'm from Alabama, so was never really, familiar with the area like that. And immediately once I stepped into town, I could tell that the people took their baseball serious, and just having the games almost packed out all the time is just, you look forward to playing for them, and you want to put on a show for them. That makes you want to play even harder, because that those fans support you, and they want to see you win, and they're dial hard, they're energetic, man. So that makes it fun to play in front of. And off the field, I mean, Reading's a town full of tradition. Obviously there's a lot of great landmarks, and a lot of great food as well. So that's good for a guy like me. But I mean, obviously just the people, man, the people that I met, and just going around town, seeing all the tradition that was in the town. It was, I mean, it's a great place for baseball. It's a great place to play, and it's a great place to just meet new people. And man, I look forward to it every time I get to go back there. So.
And your coaching staff in 2023, especially Al Patrica, your manager, Brad Bergeson, your pitching coach, what kind of impact did they have on you last season?
Well, obviously they knew I was struggling, and but that's the great thing about being part of this organization, is they find guys who know how to pick you up when you're down and be there for you, and try and show you the way when you're struggling. And I think last year, even though the end of the year I wasn't satisfied, it was good to be with coaches like that. And I give them a lot of credit for the stuff that I carried and found in Arizona, because if they would have just let me just sit there and sulk, and it probably would have ended up a lot worse. But the fact they were there to, pick me up, and, when I was sulking, they tell me to get back on the horse and let's work. And I think just having them there with me during that time was huge for me going into the off season. I think that's a big reason why I feel so good now, is because, they were always there, and they were always supportive of me. So it was a great group, and I really enjoyed it.
And you talk about, picking yourself up and, responding to adversity. For you specifically, what's kind of that key to, maybe you go out there, you have a bad outing, maybe you let it fester for a little bit, but what's the key to kind of flush that, get back to the ballpark the next day, and have a new mentality, and not let what happened the night before impact you the next day, whether it's good or bad, like you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, no, you gotta be mentally tough. You gotta be mentally tough when it comes to sport, because if you don't, it'll eat you alive, and you won't survive. So, I mean, I think I think one big thing for me is realizing that it's a game and you're going to have new days. And especially in this game, there's a lot of failure. And when you realize that and you realize it's going to happen and you accept it to, go in the next day and work hard, it makes it a lot easier to play. So you got to be mentally strong. And another thing too is the fans, man. I mean, the fans don't pay to come and watch you sulk and be bad the next day. They come to watch you, put on a show for them and be good. So I mean, you got to think about it from the fans' perspective. Like they pay to come see you play great, and that's only doing them a disfavor if you go out there and you aren't mentally tough, you're not ready to play and compete after having a bad game the night before. So I think for them, they deserve your 110% best every single day, and I take that into account into my game. So.
And then you look at the group that, especially you finished the year with in Reading last year in the bullpen. It was a group that had a lot of talent. Yourself, Dominic Pipkin, Jordy Martinez, Carlos Francisco, Orion Kirkering, who everyone knows, his story and where he ended up. And I know I probably missed a few names there, but it was a bullpen as a group last year that, I feel like really grew a lot throughout the year from, April, May. Maybe there were some struggles early on to really having a lot of success August, September. What was it like pitching alongside, some of those guys and kind of just watching the growth of the group as a whole throughout the summer?
Well, we thought of it as a family, and we were brothers, and we were there to support each other through the good and bad. And I think having a group like that with as much chemistry as we had, really makes it easy for guys to pick themselves up and realize, hey, I'm not just doing it for myself, I'm doing it for the guy to the left and right of me in the bullpen. So obviously it was great to pitch alongside a lot of them guys. And it's cool to see a guy like Kirk, you meet him and you get to know him and you play with him and he becomes one of your friends, and to see him go and, do that was awesome. And, that just makes all of us just so happy because, you love to see a guy that you went to war with, have success. So I just think, man, at the end of the day, it was chemistry, just the chemistry that we had. I mean, like I said, we were all like brothers, so that makes it easy to, go out there and have confidence because you got your boys behind you. So.
And now we talk a little bit about, your journey to get to this point. We go back to the college days. You started off your college career at Chipola Junior College. You spent the pandemic year, 2020 at Auburn, back to Chipola Junior College. Talk about just a little bit about transferring to Auburn, but then going back to, quote unquote, your roots to a school that you were familiar with to finish off your college career.
Oh yeah, I went to going to Chipola out of high school. I knew that they were a great program, had a lot of great players and a lot of great tradition. Coach Jay is the standard when it comes to just doing it right and being a great mentor and a great coach, because he didn't only make us great players, but he made us great men as well in life. And I owe him a ton. But after having a good year, my first year at Chipola, it was all about development. And that's what we did. And going into my sophomore year, Bush Thompson, which was a great coach, and I loved playing for him. He saw me and gave me an opportunity. And, I enjoyed Auburn. It was great. And obviously, there was COVID and all that crazy stuff that happened. And just for me, like when it came to that point of, whether or not I wanted to go back or transfer, it just came down to the point, well, what do I need to do? I needed to develop. And, because that was only my second full year of pitching out of high school. And, just I knew development was the answer for me. So going back to Chipola, where I knew that I would get, a little bit more playing time and a lot more innings in order to develop my pitches and, become the guy I knew I could be, I just felt like Chipola was a better place to do that. And, me and Butch had a great relationship, and he's a great coach, and I loved playing for him. But at the end of the day, I just figured Chipola would be the route, to get me where I wanted to be. So.
And you mentioned it in your last answer there. It was only your second year pitching. So maybe a lot of fans don't know about you is, it goes back. You were a catcher for a while. And a lot of the reason for that was, at 11 years old, had a freak accident on the ball field that kind of impacted not just the trajectory of your career, but the trajectory of your life. Do you kind of want to elaborate a little bit more on that for those who maybe don't know the entire story?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll try and sum it up as best I can because it's a very long story. But, when I was 11, I was pitching, just travel ball tournament, just here and there. And I threw my little 11-year-old breaking ball, and the guy hit it back at me, hit me in the head, in the temple right here. And long story short, had a big concussion, had some brain damage. Had brain damage and a little nerve damage. I had to have a big surgery, and ended up going deaf in this year because of that. So then after that, man, honestly, I was 12 years old, just too scared to get back out there after something like that happens. And so I started catching. I caught from 11 to age 18. And what that, a lot of people don't know that is I didn't start pitching until my senior year of high school. And, when something like that happens, it obviously at 11 years old, it can take a lot out of you, but that's why I'm always so humble and so, blessed to be here and don't take a day for granted because something like that, you never know what could happen. So, having that happen. And then obviously when I turned 18, I started pitching again. And, at the end of the day, I'm in a great spot right now. So I'm only, I'm thankful to God to be here. And, after a tragic event like that, but ear still, ear still bothers me a little bit not being able to hear out of it. But other than that, I'm good. So.
And you talked about not going back to pitching until you were 18. What got you to go back from being, a catcher to being on the mound again?
Well, I was planning on going to a showcase at Chipola as, a senior going into high school, and I was still only catching them. And I remember I called one of my travel ball coaches. I want to get some work in before I went down to that camp because I heard about Chipola and knew that they were a good program. And so I went into the facility and was doing catching stuff. And he was like, man, he's like, you got a strong arm, man. He's like, do you pitch? And I was like, nah, I haven't pitched since I was, 11. He was like, well, let's see what you can do. Just get up there. It won't hurt anything. And I was like, all right. So I got up there and I remember after like the second pitch, he told somebody to go get a radar gun. And I didn't really, I thought it was kind of funny. I didn't really think nothing of it. And at the end of the bullpen, he goes, oh, you throw 90, right? And I was like, no, I don't. He was like, yeah, you do. And, I just kind of just was like, all right, well, cool. And, I was filling out the form for the showcase at Chipola and it said you had to put a primary and a secondary position. So I put catcher as the primary, obviously. And then I said, well, if I throw 90, I guess I'll just put pitcher as a secondary. And I went down to Chipola, and my goal going down to Chipola at that point was to get seen by smaller schools that were attending that because I knew Chipola was a great program. And not saying I didn't think I was good enough to be there, but it was just I was just a catcher, so I was just trying to get some looks. So I go down to Chipola, do all the catching work, and I hit, and then I go to the bullpen, and I knew whatever they had on their radar guns would be correct. I knew they wouldn't, lie to me about, whatever. Not saying the guy at the facility did. I'm just saying, it was hard for me to believe I threw 90. And I remember at the end of that bullpen, I ended up hitting 92 and had a good bullpen. And then a week later, Coach Jay offered me, and I couldn't turn down the best junior college in the country. So I took it and ran with it, man. And Coach Jay did a lot with me development wise with pitching, and I owe him a lot for where I am today. So.
And the first time you step back on a mound against live hitting, was there a bit of a mental hurdle you felt like you had to get over after what happened, 7, 8 years prior?
Yeah, after time, it didn't really bother me anymore, just because I'd gotten older and I more and more understood that it was really a freak accident that, never happens. But, obviously it's in the back of your mind back there, like, these guys are a little bit bigger than when you were 11 and, that could happen again. But at the end of the day, man, I know God has me. And if something like that happens again, hopefully it doesn't. But if it does, it's out of my control. And that's just one thing you can't go out there and worry about. You can't worry about something like that happen when you're supposed to be out there competing. So, nowadays it doesn't really bother me too much, but, hopefully that never happens again. So,
And then kind of this last one on that is, after that happened, growing up through, adolescence, teenage years, off the field, personally, like, how did that, incident maybe affect you, just growing as a person and such?
well, I mentioned earlier, it keeps me humble because something like that, it's not a guarantee it'll happen again, but it could. And, that's why I think it's for me with baseball, like something like that happened, it really increased me on like being humble, being grateful for every day, not taking a day for granted, like realizing that it could be taken tomorrow. So it really keeps me humble. It really keeps me grateful for the game. And, at the end of the day, like I said, I don't worry about it, but it really does keep me humble. And it shows you that, even in the biggest adversity, you can overcome it. So.
And then, back to your college journey a little bit. Like we said, Chipola, Auburn, back to Chipola. Right before the draft, you had a chance going to the Cape Cod League, played for the Hyannis Harbor Hawks. A brief stay in Hyannis before the draft, but, what was that experience like pitching in what many call the pristine college summer ball league?
that was probably the best experience I've ever had playing summer ball. I'll be honest with you. And the good thing with me is I knew my host dad and the host family I stayed with. I played with their son like 2 years prior to that, I think, or a year or something like that. And so having him there, and it almost felt like having a second family up there. And that was my first time ever being in the Northeast period from down south, and just being there, just all the history with it. And I mean, it's different living on an island for sure. So, but I mean, it was a great experience, especially being in Hyannis in the center and like seeing things like JFK's compound, his houses, and stuff like that, along with how fun the baseball was. It was a great experience overall. So,
And I know, as someone who worked in the Cape myself in 2022, I always describe it as baseball at its purest form. Do you feel like that's a fair way to describe it?
yeah, I think that's the perfect way to say it. I mean, I have a video on my phone of when we were playing on 4th of July, and I took a video of the field and the fireworks were in the background. And I just thought, I was like, man, that's what the Cape's all about right there. It's just honoring the best game in the world. And, you know, the fans were great, and just the overall just experience of it was awesome. So, yeah, I'd agree.
And then that same summer, the Phillies take you in the draft. Uh, Walk us through that moment, when you get that phone call for the first time, and just really the culmination of, everything, especially considering everything that you went through at that point for the last, 9, 10 years.
Well, it was emotional for sure. I mean, it was a very emotional moment. Just all the adversity that I'd faced up to that point, and all the, how hard I worked to get the pitching correct, and to learn and take in knowledge as I went. Getting that phone call and just hearing those words like, "Hey, we're going to take you right here in the 11th round. Congratulations!" I mean, it was surreal. It didn't feel real, obviously, but I mean, having my parents there for it on the Cape was cool. And overall, like, man, it was just a very cool experience that I'll cherish forever, for sure.
And then that brings us back here to 2024, and you talked about just how good you feel mentally and physically heading into the season. What when 2024 wraps up and you have a chance to look back in 11 months from now, what do you hope to accomplish this year?
Yeah, I just at the end of the day, I want to be the best player for not only the coaches and my teammates, but the fans too. I think what we're doing right now, just as a unit with me and the coaching staff, I think it's going to work out very well this year. And at the end of the day, I'm just looking forward to playing in front of the best fans in the world, which is Phillies fans. So it's going to be great. It's going to be a great year. I mean, I think a lot of guys are going to succeed as well, and I'm looking forward to it. So it's going to be great.
And then a couple of fun rapid fire ones to finish us up here.
Right.
What's your pregame ritual? Do you have any rituals or superstitions?
I mentioned it earlier. Actually, I like to oil my glove and clean my glove before games. I think it's one of the little things that I found I like to do. And so that, and then I also I'd probably drink about 4 or 5 Gatorades beforehand. So I like to hydrate before too. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing really too special. It's just, little things like that, cleaning the glove, drinking Gatorade, and go pitch. That's about it.
Anything fun you and the guys do down in the bullpen to, pass the time during the game?
I mean, other than telling little kids that we can't give out the full bucket of balls, but I mean, we like to play the spin the cup game, try and land the cup upright. And I mean, one thing that I liked about our group is certain guys will fight over doing the chart. So a lot of guys like doing the chart and, being in the game and all that. So, just little things like that, throwing gum at each other, we keep it pretty fun down there. So.
And a couple more here. What's your favorite pregame meal?
Man, I don't usually eat heavy before the game. So, I mean, probably like a light pasta, something like that if we have pasta. But, I mean, just something light, really. I mean, a yogurt, fruit, coffee. Coffee's got to be there. So, yeah, just something light.
And what is your preferred, walkout song? You're taking the mound, ninth inning, safe situation. What do you want to hear over the speakers?
Well, if it was 18 or 19-year-old me, I would probably say something along the rap lines. But I think now, since I'm older, I'm kind of more into the rock and roll now, kind of like just anything rock and 90s grunge type deal. So maybe a little Nirvana, maybe a little, Alice in Chains. I've liked Alice in Chains a lot here recently. So I don't know, something like that that'll, get me my blood boiling and ready to go. So.
Awesome. Well, awesome stuff from Andrew Baker, member of the 2022 and 2023 Phils. And Andrew, we can't wait to watch you in 2024 and beyond here in the Phillies organization. Really appreciate you taking some time today and joining us on the Baseball Town Caravan.
No, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
That'll do it for this episode of the 2024 Baseball Town Charities Phillies Winter Tour. Big thank you to Andrew Baker for joining us today. I'm Phils broadcaster Jake Starr, and we'll talk to you next week here on the Phils Winter Tour, presented by Leibensberger Funeral Homes.
After losing a loved one, families often wonder what next. You'll find the answer at Leibensberger Funeral Homes.
Everyone who walks through our doors is treated with respect and compassion.
We take the time to learn about your loved one and celebrate their life with a service that reflects who they really were.
Offering 2 locations, ample parking, and a spacious chapel and vestibule. Let our family help your family find peace at Leibensberger Funeral Homes.
Thank you for watching the 2024 Baseball Town Charities Phillies Winter Tour, presented by Leibensberger Funeral Homes.